The morning after the long night on the court, Ezra felt heavier than usual. His muscles ached, and his mind buzzed with a strange mixture of exhaustion and adrenaline. Even the routine sound of the city, the faint roar of traffic, distant sirens, the sharp whistle of a train, felt amplified, each noise pulling him out of the fragile peace he'd felt at dawn. At school, the fluorescent lights were harsh and unyielding. The hallways smelled of sweat, chalk, and something faintly metallic. Students moved like rivers of indifferent faces, but Ezra's attention was elsewhere. Every step, every glance felt like it carried consequence. The memory of Marcus, the shadows, and the scrape at the fence lingered in his mind, twisting simple acts like walking to class into a careful negotiation of space and focus. His first class, calculus, dragged by slowly. Numbers blurred, formulas lost meaning. His pen hovered over the page, but his mind replayed every movement on the court, every missed shot, every scrape of metal he had heard that night. When the teacher called on him, Ezra jumped. Ezra, the voice of Mr. Callahan, patient but firm, broke his internal spiral. Do you know the derivative of sine? Ezra blinked rapidly, trying to align his thoughts. A cosine, he said finally, the answer surfacing like a distant memory. The class went on, but Ezra felt the tension within him growing. Even in the classroom, he was alert, scanning the edges of the room, half expecting to see shadows stretch across the walls. By the time lunch rolled around, his focus was fractured, his patience frayed. The cafeteria smelled of grease and bleach, a sharp contrast to the asphalt, sweat, and concrete of the night before. Students crowded tables, voices overlapping, laughter sharp and grating in Ezra's heightened perception. Marcus appeared again, but this time in a social context. He was seated at a table near the back, flanked by two other tall juniors who had a reputation for being ruthless on the court. When Ezra's eyes met his, Marcus smirked, a small, knowing curve of his lips that made Ezra's stomach tight. You look tired, Marcus said casually as Ezra approached. The night didn't break you, huh? Ezra sat cautiously, scanning the cafeteria, trying to appear relaxed. I'm fine, he said, just focusing. Marcus chuckled softly. Good, focus will be everything soon, you'll see. The bell rang, a harsh slicing of air through the din of the room. Ezra left the cafeteria, mind churning. Outside, the air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain that had soaked the city the night before. He walked toward the basketball gym, feeling the familiar call of asphalt and hoops. But even as he approached the court, he could feel the tension that had followed him from last night's shadows. He wasn't alone. A group of players from rival neighborhoods loitered near the entrance, their eyes sharp, sizing him up. Whispers followed him. One of them, a tall boy named Dante, called out, "Heard you've been practicing late. Think you're ready for the big game tonight." Ezra's stomach knotted. The tournament wasn't just a game, it was a proving ground. Every move, every dribble, every shot carried the weight of his reputation, his skill, and his fears. Marcus stepped beside him, silent for a moment, then whispered, "Remember what we learned. Focus. Fear is a tool, not a weapon against you. Use it." Ezra nodded, absorbing the advice even as the shadows of doubt stretched longer. He picked up his ball, feeling its warmth and weight, the familiar rhythm of its bounce grounding him. The tournament began at dusk, the courts illuminated by harsh floodlights. Ezra's competitors were relentless, aggressive in ways that went beyond skill. They taunted, they pushed, they used psychological games to break his focus. Each possession was a test not just of talent, but of composure. The shadows from the corners of the court twisted as though alive, reflecting the nervous tension of the players. Ezra felt the scrape of metal along a far fence, faint but unmistakable. Someone was watching. Someone was measuring every move. Marcus leaned close. "Don't look away," he whispered. "The moment you do, you'll regret it." Ezra nodded. He dribbled, pivoted, shot. One basket, then another. Each movement became a meditation, a fight to reclaim control over the chaos surrounding him. The crowd's taunts blurred into white noise. The scrape of the fence faded into the background as he focused, feeling the rhythm of the ball in his hands, the precision of his movements, the strength of his legs. And then a rival player lunged at him, grabbing at the ball aggressively. Ezra dodged, pivoted, and countered with a swift jump shot. The ball arced, rimmed the edge, and dropped in perfectly. Cheers erupted around him, but Ezra only heard the echo of his heartbeat and the soft, deliberate scrape at the far fence. Something or someone was still there, watching, waiting. Marcus's voice broke through. Keep moving, keep thinking, keep winning. That's the only way tonight ends well. Ezra swallowed hard, pulse hammering, and braced himself for the next challenge, because he knew, deep down, that the night was far from over. The court was alive, not with players, not with fans, but with the tension that seeped into every crack of the asphalt, every flickering shadow beneath the floodlights. Ezra's sneakers squeaked as he pivoted, dribbled, and darted around opponents. Each move felt familiar, drilled into him over countless hours, yet tonight the rhythm carried an edge, an undercurrent that made his movements feel simultaneously effortless and precarious. The crowd of neighborhood spectators was tense. Their voices rose and fell like a tide, but Ezra tuned them out, focusing on the ball on the hoop, on Marcus's cryptic advice: fear is a tool, not a weapon against you. Ezra's first opponent, a tall, muscular junior named Dante, was aggressive. He didn't just play the game. He sought to dominate it, to bend it to his will and break whoever stood in his path. Dante lunged at Ezra with every possession, trying to strip the ball, force mistakes, and intimidate him with taunts and sharp elbows. "You think you're good," Dante hissed, teeth clenched. "You're just a kid with a fancy wrist flick." Ezra gritted his teeth, pivoting on the ball, focus, controlled. He dodged Dante, spun, and released a jump shot. The ball kissed the rim, rattled, and dropped through the net with a satisfying swish. The crowd erupted, but Ezra felt no elation, only the relentless pull of tension. Marcus appeared at the edge of the court again, leaning casually against the chain-link fence, eyes scanning Ezra's every movement. "Keep moving," he said quietly. "Don't just react, think ahead, anticipate." Ezra's pulse raised. The shadows around the court seemed to shift in tandem with his focus, stretching long and thin, twisting as though they were extensions of the player's willpower. Every noise, squeak of sneakers, slap of ball on asphalt, distant metallic scrape, echoed with unnatural clarity. Ezra felt it again, someone watching, someone learning from every motion. He couldn't see them, but he could feel the presence, patient and deliberate, circling just beyond the court's light. The tournament intensified. Players from rival blocks pressed harder, taunting him, blocking his path and attempting psychological tricks to throw him off. One boy tripped slightly over a loose board, then laughed loudly, as if daring Ezra to falter. Another whispered threats just behind his ear, testing whether fear could break focus faster than fatigue. Ezra adjusted, shifting into a rhythm that was part muscle memory, part calculated intuition. The ball became an extension of himself, a lifeline, a pulse he could control while the chaos pressed in from all sides. But the scrape returned, a faint, metallic grind from the far edge of the court. Ezra froze mid-dribble. The sound was subtle but deliberate, methodical. He could hear his own heartbeat thudding in his ears, each beat echoing like a drum in the quiet moments between the crowd's cheers. "Stay in the moment," Marcus whispered. "Don't look away, don't hesitate." Ezra took a deep breath, letting it ground him. He pivoted, shot, and scored again. But the sense of being watched intensified. He scanned the edges, half expecting to see someone or something emerge from the shadows. And then it happened. A sharp clang echoed across the court, a loose chain from the backboard rattling violently. Ezra's eyes snapped toward the hoop. Someone or something had tampered with the rim. The backboard shook dangerously. Dante's grin widened, eyes glinting with cruel anticipation. "Careful, kid. Wouldn't want you to fall." Ezra's stomach dropped. Every drill, every late-night practice, every mental exercise had prepared him for skill, speed, and focus, but not for sabotage, not for the realization that the court itself could become a trap. The metallic scrape resumed along the fence, faster now, deliberate, echoing like footsteps in rhythm with his heartbeat. Ezra's chest tightened. Marcus's voice cut sharply through the tension. Trust your instincts. Trust the ball. Trust yourself. Ezra pivoted, shot, and caught the rebound, lunging to safety. The hoop wobbled violently, loose bolts threatening to give way. In that moment, everything slowed. The shadows seemed to creep inward, the floodlights flickered, the distant city hum vanished. Ezra's mind raced. This isn't just about the game anymore. It's about survival, about seeing clearly in chaos. He dribbled toward the far edge of the court, aware of every sound, the ball's rhythm, the scrape, the crowd's muffled shouts. He felt the tension pressing into his muscles, his senses hyper-aware of every crack, every uneven surface. One wrong step could cost him a fall, a misplay, a chance at victory. Dante lunged again, harder, more aggressively. Ezra sidestepped, pivoted, and in a split second launched the ball toward the hoop. It hit the rim, bounced high, and clanged off, but the ball remained in play. Ezra caught it, turned, and sprinted toward the opposite side of the court. The scrape followed him, relentless, closer, closer. Ezra's breath came in ragged bursts, sweat blurring his vision. He realized that the night wasn't just testing skill or focus. It was testing his courage, his ability to adapt under pressure, and his instinct for survival. Marcus's words echoed again. Fear is a tool, not a weapon against you. Ezra felt it now, tangible. The fear sharpened his reflexes, cleared his mind. Every dodge, every pivot, every shot became precise. He wasn't panicking, he was responding. He was alive. Then suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the edge of the court. A figure stepped forward, tall, silent, deliberately blocking one exit. Ezra froze, heartbeat pounding, sweat streaming down his face. The court had become a cage. Dante smirked, eyes glinting. Looks like the game just got interesting. Ezra's grip on the ball tightened. He knew the next move would define him, not just as a player, but as someone who could survive fear and uncertainty. The metallic scrape stopped. Silence fell. Only the distant hum of the city remained, faint and watchful. Ezra's pulse was a drumbeat in his ears. He bent low, ready to pivot, jump, shoot, anything. And then the lights flickered out. The court plunged into darkness.